of even Kubo gap. So when we move from bulk to nano, so you can see that this is the particle size or grain size decreasing maybe 100 nanometer to 0.01 nanometer. And we have already seen that there is a dispersion increases as we move from bulk to nano or as the grain size is engineered. And you see here, as the particle size decreases, the Kubo gap is developed. Significant Kubo gap is developed. We have already defined what is Kubo gap and what is band gap. Band gap, we know it is a separation between the valence band and the conduction band of semiconductor or insulator and insulators. But what is Kubo gap? It is the average energy spacing present in a successive energy levels. It may be a metal or a semiconductor or an insulator for that matter. Band gap is different from that of the Kubo gap. Okay, so even metals may develop a Kubo gap when we move from bulk to nano, because there is decrease in the number of atoms, ions or molecules in a thermodynamically stable grain. For example, 1 nanometer or 0.1 nanometer, 10 nanometer grains. So total number of atom decreases and the number of surface atom increases, and the ratio of number of atoms on the surface to the total number of atom, which is known as dispersion, increases. It becomes 100% at a sufficiently smaller size. Okay, most of the atoms are at the surfaces, and there is an increased force of attraction between the ions, all molecules and atoms at relatively lower grain sizes. Eventually, so there is a discontinuity in the density of state. So the density of changes from continuum to maybe step function to delta function to discrete. This is what, yes. So the density of state is no longer continuum for the nanomaterials, and we know that it is continuum for the bulk material. Okay, so what is density of state? So dE by dN. So dE by dN is the density of state. The number of the differentiation of number of electron with respect to energy of electron is known as density of state. Literally, it means that the number of available energy levels for the electron to occupy is known as density of state, DOS. And because of this quantum size effect or grain size effect, grain size engineering, the density of state is not continuum for the nanostructured material, whether it is a quantum well, nanowire, nanotube, or quantum dots. We know we have three types of nanostructured materials. They are zero-dimensional material in terms of material dimension, one-dimensional material, and a two-dimensional material in terms of material dimensions. Okay, so quantum wells, they have a step function. Okay, so if you quantify, if you equate this plot in terms of an equation, it will be exactly like a step function. And this is a delta function, triangle. So the density of state, if you plot versus the energy of the electron, it will be exactly like a triangular. Okay, more like discrete. And in the case of quantum dots, it is highly discrete. The energy levels or the density of state is more like atomic in nature and molecular nature, and whose properties are much superior compared to all other rest of the type of the materials. And for that reason, we call nanomaterials sometimes as a super atoms or smart materials. So the take home point is, as the grain size decreases, band gap increases. As the grain size decreases, Kubo gap may develop. Even in metals, even metals may become insulating or semiconducting. If not insulating, it may become semiconducting if you make a sufficiently smaller grains. Semiconductor may become insulating. Insulator will become more insulating. So I think we have seen this also. So in the bulk, the energy levels are continuum, and in the atoms and molecules, the energy levels are very far, and there is a separation. Okay, so energy levels are more discrete. These nanoscale materials or nanostructured materials, neither bulk nor atomic nature, in between. They are not continuum. They are not like separate energy levels, but the energy levels are more like atomic in nature, molecular in nature. And this density of state or energy levels makes the difference in the electronic properties as well as the optical properties. And they are interlinked. So electronic properties are interlinked with the catalytic activity. We know that. These energy levels or band gap or Kubo gap is directly influencing on the appearance of the material, which is nothing but optical properties. And as I told in the beginning, in one of the classes, the most exploited property among the non-scale property is none other than the optical properties. Okay, so optoelectronic, dye-sensitive solar cell, bioimaging, optoelectronics, etc., sensing, etc. So, are you with me? So, shall we go ahead? Anything else we have seen in the previous class? My screen is visible, audible, my voice is audible.
Yes, sir.
Anything else you would like to add? Excuse me, I was late for 10-15 minutes. So definitely I require 5 minutes to start my laptop. So there are some, I think I need to set it right. This Zoom app, it takes a long time to restart. I lost 5 minutes in that. Okay, anyway. So the take home point from the previous class is that there is increase in the band gap. There will be increase in the band gap when we move from bulk to nano. In addition to that, there may be a development of Kubo gap. Okay, there may be a development of Kubo gap. And so what is Kubo gap? We have already defined it. It is the average energy level present between any successive energy levels. Average spacing present between the successive energy levels or consecutive energy levels. So we have energy levels in the atoms and the molecules. We have energy levels in the materials, okay, in the continuum. So maybe for example, I think here it is possible. Here there is no Kubo gap, but the spacing between these two energy levels, it is nearly constant, and this average distance separation is known as the Kubo gap. And this is the band gap. This is the band gap. Whether it is a semiconductor or metallic clusters or metallic metals, so if you make sufficiently smaller grains, in addition to increase in the band gap, there can be a development of Kubo gap. So this is a small cartoon. So a grain size, a spherical particles. So what is the size? 1000 nanometer. Okay. Then you subdivide into smaller and smaller metal clusters or semiconducting clusters, anything. Very tiny particles, grain size is less than 1 nanometer or less than 10 nanometer. What is this N? Nuclearity. Number of atoms it can be present. Nuclearity is almost equal to the number of atoms present. Large particle, there will be a large number of atoms. Lesser size, grain size is less, so number of atoms in a thermodynamically stable grain decreases from 10 power 10 to 10 power 4. Then very less particles, 10 to 1 to 10 nanometer, still the number of particle is reduced. And the grain size, if you make 1 nanometer, it is the stable thermodynamically stable grain will have only countable number of atoms, ions or molecules for that matter. Then what happens to the Kubo gap? So this is the Kubo gap in Kubalt-Munck, okay, K, 10 power minus 6. This is almost insignificant when the particle size is large. Particle size is 1000 nanometer, nuclear number of atoms are large, and the Kubo gap is almost insignificant. But the moment you decrease the grain size down to maybe 1,000 to 10 nanometer, so then nuclearity decreases, there is increase in the Kubo gap. 10 power minus 6 is insignificant, but 1 is very significant. How many order increase? 6 order increase in the magnitude. And if you make still a smaller particle and a very smaller particle, and you see, so there is significant increase in the Kubo gap. 10 power 3, Kubalt-Munck. And it is possible to quantify it using this standard equation. Kubo gap of any material, any structure, it is possible to estimate using this standard equation. Delta is the Kubo gap. Okay, so is equal to EF by N, where n is the number of atoms or nuclearity or total number of atoms, and EF is the Fermi energy. EF is the Fermi energy. And you see that as the nuclearity decreases from 10 power 10 to 10 power 1, okay, so the delta will increase because they are inversely proportional. Even if Fermi energy remains same, if the nuclearity decreases, there will be increase in the QO. That is why, so when we move from bulk to nano, the total number of atoms decreases from 10 power 23 to 10 power 20, 10 power 15, 10, 10 5, 6, 1 or less than 100. Nuclearity decreases. Automatically, there can be an increase in the spacing. This spacing contributes to the overall increase in the band gap, and band gap increases. Since the band gap is different for the nanostructured materials compared to the bulk material, we can have size-induced metal insulated transitions. It means that, so at a macroscopic, metal will behave as a metal. But at mesoscopic and microscopic levels, it need not be behave as a metal. It can become semiconducting, or if there is a very large increase in the band gap beyond 3.5, 3.6 electron volt, even the metals may become insulator. So we call this as a metal insulated transition, not transistor, transition, metal insulated transition. The same metal, maybe bismuth, gold, silver, platinum, or any other metal for that matter, so may become semiconducting to insulator if you make sufficiently smaller grain. If you engineer the grain sizes from large grain size to very small grain sizes, there can be a induced metal insulated transition or metal semiconducting transitions. So what is this mesoscopic and microscopic? There is a range of the sizes. So this is micron size, macroscopic particle or bulk particle. The grain size we typically have in microns, whereas mesoscopic and microscopic, and this microscopic is also known as nanoscopic. Okay, so if the grain size is, or the size range of anything for that matter is up to 50 nanometer, it is mesoscopic. Less than 50 nanometer, close to 1 nanometer is microscopic or nanomaterials, nanoscale. Both comes under nanoscale regime, 1 to 100 nanometer. And again, so I would like to reiterate that, so metals may even develop QO gap at a sufficiently smaller particles. So as a consequence, there can be a development of band gap, and there will be increase in the band gap. Metals may become semiconductor may become insulator will become more insulating. So for example, I have one typical numerical problems. So for example, so you can equate this delta QO gap is equal to the room temperature, KT. Assume that this QO gap is almost equal to KT. Okay, so where T is a room temperature or temperature, okay, and K is a Boltzmann constant. So, and it is possible to estimate in a given size of the particle how many atoms, ions or molecules can be there. And we know that in bulk 10 power 23 atoms, ions or molecules will be there. But in a given smaller particle, also possible to estimate how many atoms can be there. We have already worked out in another classes. In a given particle size, how many atoms, ions or molecules can be there. It is possible. Okay. So now similar to that. So for example, so delta is equal to E by N, coming from the previous slide. Okay. So then this delta is almost equal to K. If you can assume that it may be equal to KT magnitude wise, then it is possible to estimate how many atoms can be there. How many atoms or ions can be there? If you know the Fermi energy, and KT is typically 0.0257 electron volt, so it will be about 400 atoms, 389 atoms. So if you have a collection of 400 atoms, whether it is a gold, platinum or silver, etc., and it is having a CuboCap. And we have seen that these gold tiny particles having 2 nanometer behaves as an excellent catalyst. Gold in the bulk is inert. It cannot catalyze water or a moisture or CO, NO, etc. But if you make 2 nanometer gold clusters, it becomes highly catalytic. A new terminology itself evolved. Gold nanocatalyst, silver nanocatalyst. Otherwise, they are not catalytic at bulk because of changes in the electronic structure. Changes in the electronic structure. Okay. So even metals, including semiconductor, insulators can develop CuboCap. Even metals can develop a band gap. And there is an increase in the band gap for the semiconductors and insulators when we move from bulk to nano. How much will be the increase in the band gap? How much will be the development of the band gap? It is possible to quantify thanks to this 1 year exciton approximation. So from which we could get how much is the increase in the band gap or change in the band gap when we move from bulk to nano can be quantified using this standard equation, this equation. E star, the energy, the band gap, the resultant band gap because of the quantum size effect or grain size engineering is equal to the bulk band gap from the energy from the confinement effect and the energy from the exciton radiations, exciton radius. Okay, so or very specifically, the band gap is equal to Eg bulk band gap plus confinement energy and the exciton contribution. It so happened that this exciton contribution is very, very minimum and it can be neglected. So then it brings, so if you remove this insignificant part, so then the band gap is equal to bulk band gap plus confinement energy. Then the increase in band gap or change in the band gap is, so delta G, Eg is equal, so the resultant band gap minus the bulk band gap. You see that the increased band gap is due to the confinement effect. We have already seen it elaborately. Is nothing but n square h square divided by 8 mu 8 m a square or mu a square. We have seen previously one dimensional box. Okay, so the simplified version of this equation is here. E is equal E bulk, Eg bulk plus h cross square pi square 2 m star d square. There are different terminology, symbols used. So h is nothing but, h cross is nothing but h by 2 pi. This mu star is also represented in terms of, m star is also can be designated as a mu. Somebody has joined. So this m star can also be represented in mu, which is nothing but reduced mass of electron and hole is equal to, so mass of electron plus the mass of a hole divided by mass of electron, mass of a hole into rest mass of electron, and dAr. It can be d or small r, small a, so which is nothing but the size of the grains, materials or the particles. You see here, so this is the band gap or energy levels and decrease in the grain size. In the bulk, it will have bulk band gap. For example, semiconductor and insulator. As the grain size decreases, there is development of band gap, increase in the band gap. Atoms, no doubt, there is a discrete energy levels. And the band gap increases in the case of grain size, smaller than bulk particles. So I have a much simpler version of that equation. E is equal to Eg0 plus h square divided by 8m a square or mu a square. As I told, this mu can be mu star, m star, a can be r or d. So mu is nothing but me into mh divided by me plus mh into rest mass of electron. So mu is nothing but reduced mass of electron and hole. So me is a mass of electron in a material, mh is a mass of hole in the material, and so m0 is rest mass of the electron, that is 9.1 into 10 power minus 31 kilograms. So this 1 year approximation gives the resultant band gap of engineered materials. So by now, I'm sure all of you would have convinced that there will be increase in the band gap when we move from bulk to nano, whether it is a quantum well, nanodots, nanowires, or quantum dots. Okay, so the band gap is no longer remain as a bulk band gap if the grain size is sufficiently made small. So how much grain size you have to reduce in order to see the increase in the band gap for semiconductors? Can anyone respond? If you answer this, you understood all previous classes. If not, you have not understood properly. Yes, correct. Exciton board. I'm happy. At least one of you have, or maybe others have not opened. So you understood. You understood. So unless you decrease the grain size equal to or down to the exciton bore radius for semiconductors, you will not see increase in the band gap. There may be increase in the surface area. There may be decrease in the melting point. But to see the electronic effect, optical changes, optical appearance of the material changes. So you need to have the grain size engineered down to the size of the exciton bore radius. In the case of semiconductors and insulators, and in the case of metals, it should be less than that of the electron mean free path, L or D, capital D. Okay, so what is Eg? Eg is the band gap of the nanoparticle. Eg0 in band gap of a material in the bulk. H is usual meaning, so Planck's constant. So 6.626 into 10 power minus 34 joule second, and mu is me m0 mh divided by me plus mh into m0, and A is the particle size or grain size. A is particle size or grain size. So Veeraraj, you are regularly coming very late. Veeraraj and other person, 2, 3 of you are regularly coming. I myself was late for a few minutes, and you are coming very late. If it would have been offline classes, I would never allow. I will shut the door. Okay. Okay, so you please take down this numerical problem and let us try to estimate the band gap, increased band gap, or whatever may be. So the band gap of gadmium sulfide in the bulk is 2.482 electron volt. The effective mass of the electron is 0.19 and that of the hole is 0.8. Calculate the band gap of 1 to 10 nanometer cadmium sulfide nanoparticles and plot band gap versus the size. Very fascinating numerical problem. So if you do this, you will understand the whole unit. So please take down and let us try to work out. I already gave yesterday. I gave you. I hope some of you have, or few of you have attempted. If anybody has attempted, you can show. If you have it in the digital form or any other form, if you possible to share your screen, you may do so. The band gap of gadmium sulfide in the bulk is 2.482 electron volt. The effective mass of the electron is 0.19 and the effective mass of the hole is 0.8. Calculate the band gap of cadmium sulfide nanoparticles having the grain size 1 to 10 nanometer, and you will have to plot the band gap versus the grain size. How will you do? Easy to do? You will be able to do?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
If anybody has done it, you can share your screen. I can remove my screen. There is a very simple way of doing this.
My screen.
You are planning to share your screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
1 second, 1 second. So yeah, so I can stop my sharing. So you tell your name. Who is that?
Siddhartha Shrestha, sir.
Siddhartha. Yeah. Welcome, welcome. You please share your screen
Okay, sir.
and explain.
My screen is
Yeah,
visible, sir.
it is coming. It is coming. Make it larger. Yeah, just explain.
We have the band gap of the CBS in bulk is given 2.482 electron volt.
Correct.
Then the mass of the electron M is given 0.19.
Yes.
Then the effective mass of the hole is given 0.8.
Yes.
I have used Eg equals to Eg net plus H square by 8 mu A square,
Yes.
where H is the Planck constant, mu is the reduced mass, A is
Correct.
the size.
Size. What is the size you have taken? Or what are the sizes you have taken?
First of all, I find the value of the reduced mass using
Okay, so we have worked out to mu, that is reduced mass, which
Yes,
is
sir.
defined as Me into Mh divided by Me plus Mh into rest mass of electron. Rest mass of electron is 9.1 into 10 power minus 31 kilogram. Correct. You worked out. That is about some number. 1.3486 into 10 power minus 31 kilogram. Very good. Next.
And then we then I used the value of 1 for calculating EG1.
Okay.
That gives the
So
4.8.
the bulk band gap E0 you have taken 2.482 plus H square is 6.62 into 10 power minus 34 joule second, and square we have taken 8. Mu is 3.8 1.3986 into 10 power minus 31 into size square.
1
Correct?
into power 9 square, sir.
Okay.
Value A equals to 1.
Yes.
Similarly, I use the value of A equals to 2 for EG2.
Yes. Correct. So there is some trick you would have applied it. So the value that the unit that you will get for H square divided by 8 mu A square will be in joules. Correct?
Yes, sir.
That has to be converted into electron volt because the band gap of the bulk is given in electron volt. Correct?
Yes, sir.
2.482 electron volt. Then this H square divided by 8 m mu A square or 8 m A square, m star A square or 8 mu A square or R square should also be converted into joule into electron volt. So I have already shown you. So 1 joule is nothing but 6.84 into 10 power 18 electron volt or vice versa. You can interconvert it. So many joules you will get, you will have to convert it into electron volt. So this H square divided by 8 m mu square or A square will be coming in joule, and that has to be converted into electron volt. Then you add them together and you have done. And the size, yeah, go ahead please.
Then I have plotted the graph between EG and A.
Very good, very good, very good.
It shows when the A equals to 1, nanometer,
No,
the
no, it
EG
is better you come from large size, 10 nanometer.
for the 10 nanometer, the value of EG is lowest. When the
Yes,
when the value of A is 1 nanometer, its value is the highest.
almost double, right?
Yes, sir. More than
Almost
double.
double, right? Yes, more than double. So 10 nanometer is large size, 1 nanometer is one order less. So 10 nanometer large size having the band gap similar to that of the bulk. Bulk is 2.486 and 10 nanometer is having a band gap of 2.506. Similar, nearly similar. Whereas if you decrease the grain size down to 1 nanometer, you will see double the enhancement in the band gap. Very good. Good effort. Anybody else have done this?
Thank you, sir.
Very good.
Can I stop sharing, sir?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Very good. So the grain size range is given 1 to 10 nanometer. It means you will have to take 10 nanometer, 9 nanometer, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 up to that. Okay. So there is a simple way. So this is my version. So I hope you'll be able to see. So you'll have to work out. So you'll have to work out. So the standard equation is equal to EG0 plus H square 8 mu A square. You can work out H square divided by 8 mu A square separately. Then take it to this equation, convert joule into electron volt. There is some conversion unit. 1 joule is equal to 6.24 into 10 power 18 electron volt, because joule is nothing but J. So this m square case m square kg square second square. Okay, so automatically this unit will become electron volt. So then you add them together. Okay, so you can keep A square, convert the nanometer into meter, and keep A square as such. Then finally you will have to substitute only A. Okay, so A corresponding to 1, A corresponding to 5, A corresponding to 10 or anything. Then you plot it. There is definite increase in the band gap. There is definite increase in the band gap. Okay, I think I'm done mostly. Very important topic. Last 2-3 classes we have been seeing prior to electrical properties and optical properties. If you understand this density of state, how it changes from quantum well to nanowires to quantum dots, you understood. It will be easy to understand electrical properties and optical properties. Okay. And anybody would like to make some comments? I think I'm done. The others are in the YouTube. Optical properties are there already. Electrical properties are up to this only. I wanted to take. Anybody would like to make some comments, clarifications, questions? Yes. So using this Wannier approximation equation, it is possible to estimate the band gap of a non-material, and it is also possible to estimate the change in the band gap or increase in the band gap. Not only for gadolinium sulfide, for any semiconductor or even insulators. So if you are provided all these parameters, it is possible to estimate it. And it is also possible to estimate the band gap practically. We have already seen it, isn't it? It is possible to estimate the, I think it is coming. It is coming. Yes. It is also possible to estimate the band gap practically. Okay. So shall we go ahead? So from this part already the classes taken for other previously joined students, it's already available in the YouTube or in my Google Drive, which I already shared you. And I encourage all of you to continue those video lectures for the continuity of this unit 1. Okay. So maybe so this introduction to optical property, up to that I will stop. Okay. So last 2-3 classes we have seen what are exciton, or what is an exciton, what is exciton Bohr radius, what is density of state, how the band is forming, how the band is different or density of state is different when we move from bulk to nano, and what are the consequences of quantum size effect, uh, how band gap is increasing, why band gap is increasing, what is Kubo gap, what is the relation between Kubo gap and particle size or Fermi energy for that matter. So far all those things we have seen. And we can also quantify theoretically for a given particle size using this binary approximation equation. It is possible to estimate the band gap theoretically. Please wait, maybe so, or you follow the other videos. It is also possible to estimate practically the band gap. Okay. So now how we can connect these density of state, band gap, Kubo gap to the optical properties, or what happens to the optical properties of the nanomaterials when we move from bulk to nano. Okay, so to understand the optical properties, we need to separate metals and the semiconductors for easy understanding. Let us concentrate on semiconductors first. And we know that materials based on the energy separation between the valence band and the conduction band, we have 3 types of materials. Metals, so there are no separation, and in the case of semiconductor and insulator, there is a separation. If it is 0 and 3.5 electron volt, they are semiconductors. If it is beyond 3.5, they are insulators. When I say semiconductors, we have different types of semiconductors. At least based on the band diagram, so we have a direct band gap semiconductor and indirect band gap semiconductor. There are other way of distinguishing, making a distinction for semiconductor, N-type, P-type. Okay, intrinsic, eccentric semiconductors. So here, based on the band diagram, so they are direct band gap semiconductor and indirect band gap semiconductor. What is the direct band gap semiconductor? As you see that the valence band and the conduction band, and they are held very vertically, perfectly vertical. Okay. Whereas in the case of forbidden transition, it is drifted. What is the problem with this, or what are the consequences? You are going to get a very sharp transition between the transition of the electron between the valence band and the conduction band in the case of direct band gap semiconductor. Whereas it will be diffused in the case of forbidden transition or indirect band gap semiconductor. Most of the semiconductors are indirect band gap semiconductor, including silicon. It means that, so if you look at its band structure, or if you look at its band diagram, they are not vertically aligned and there is a drift in the excited state. You will have a multiple electronic transition. Whenever we have a multiple electronic transition, the profile will be diffused. Excuse me. Profile will be diffused. Okay. So the transition that is occurring, we call it as a forbidden transition. So whereas when we have a vertical aligning of the bands, valence bands and the conduction band, and we have a electronic transition allowed. Generally, the intensity of the band, the U visible band that you can record, or am I disconnected? No. So it is vertical. The intensity that you are going to get is very high. Whereas in the case of forbidden transition, it is not so high. Okay, not so high. So whether it is a semiconductor or insulator, so the optical property is directly linked with the how they interact with the light. Okay, so, and it is the fundamental property of any material, and very specifically for semiconductors. How the semiconductor absorbs and emits the light will give the property, optical property to the semiconductors. Okay, so whenever any semiconductor is illuminated with the radiations, electromagnetic radiations, like yesterday also we have seen a different version of this electromagnetic radiation, and we know that they can be ionizing radiation, non-ionizing radiation, increased energy or low energy, or in terms of wavelength or frequency, there is a very narrow band of visible radiations. So whenever an electromagnetic radiation is allowed to fall on any substance, these are the event it can take place. They are, maybe the light may be reflected, or the light may be scattered by the material, or the light may be transmitted, or it may be observed. These four phenomena can take place. It may be a combination of these, or it may be any one of these phenomena. It might just scatter, there is no change in the wavelength. In most of the cases, except in the case of emitted light, wavelength remains same. Then what will be difference? There will be difference in the intensity or the direction. Whether it is reflected or scattered, wavelength remains same. Incident radiation and scatter radiation and reflected radiation, wavelength will be same, but intensity may be different, direction may be different. But in the case of the energy being observed, the wavelength of incident radiation will be changed. It means wavelength of absorbed energy will be different, emitted energy will be different. It means that the material will look different. This is what happens in the semiconductors. Semiconductor absorbs some light, some wavelength, lambda 1, 580 nanometer. According to the color wheel, there will be emission. Okay, there will be emission. So scattering, absorption, and we see that in the case of transmission, yes, such phenomena, Tyndall effect, it is possible to see in nanocolloids. You would have had this experiment, you would have witnessed this. Pure water will not be able to see that the path of the light, but turbid water, colloids, nanocolloids, microcolloids, transparent solution containing solid particles, it is possible to see the path of the light. It means that so the particles present in the colloid is scattering, and we will be able to see the path of the light, and very characteristic of the non-structured materials. Okay, so combination of these events or any one of these events are the responsible for the appearance of the material, and in the case of semiconductor, it is absorption of the light. It is absorption of the light. What is reflection? So as the name implies, material the material when the light strikes on the material or the material surfaces, it will scatter. It can scatter in any direction. Absorption is nothing but the energy associated with the instant radiation is transformed into the material. So the material absorbs some part of the energy from the instant radiation. Once the material, semiconductor or insulator absorbs the energy from the instant radiation, so it will do its job. What it can do? It can excite the electron present in the ground state to the excited state in the case of semiconductors and insulators. And there is a creation of electron and hole pair known as exciton. And exciton has a lifetime. It has to relax. It has to come back, decay, radiative decay or non-radiative decay. If it is a radiative decay, according to the color wheel, we are going to get a different color. The semiconductor insulators will show some color, different color. What is transmission? So some part of intensity is observed. The wavelength remains same. Okay, so wavelength remains same, transmitted radiation, but intensity is reduced. This intensity of the transmitted radiation is given by the Lambert law or Beer-Lambert's law. When a monochromatic radiation allowed to fall on a transparent solution, the decrease in the intensity of radiation with respect to time is directly proportional to concentration as well as the path length. So the mathematical version of Beer's law or Beer-Lambert's law is equal, A is equal epsilon CL. A equal ECL. A is observant, C is concentration, epsilon is opacity or optical density, or extinction coefficient, and T or L is path length. So we have used previously that equation. What is scattering? Scattering and reflection nearly same. Okay. So here it can be a multiple scattering also. Whenever we have a multiple scattering, whitening will take place. Okay. So this is what occurs in the milk. This is what occurs in the milk. Okay. So let us concentrate on the absorbed part of the light. So let's say you have been given semiconductor and you have illuminated the semiconductor with some radiation, electromagnetic radiation, visible light, or whatever the light. So the instant radiation, if the energy is sufficient to excite the electron present in the ground state, so the electron will be excited, it will go to the excited state and it has to relax. Or the electron, for simplicity, for the semiconductors, this is for molecules, ions, but this is for the semiconductors. The electrons, the valence band will be excited and there will be a formation of exciton and it has to relax. So when it comes, it will emit some color. What color? If it absorbs violet, it will emit yellow. If it absorbs red, it would emit green. If it absorbs blue, it will emit orange, vice versa. This phenomena, I'm sure you are familiar with this color wheel, Vibgyor, okay, opposite color wheel. The color that we see for the semiconductor is the emission color, not the absorption color. See, if the material is appearing yellow, it means it has absorbed violet. If the material is showing the green color, it has absorbed red radiation. The wavelength of red and green are different. Okay, so the color that we see for semiconductor is the emission color, and it is due to electronic transition. When it occurs, when a sufficient energy is allowed to shine on the semiconductor, it induces the electronic transition, creates the electron and hole pair or exciton, then exciton relaxes by radiative means and it emits. It emits a lesser energy or different frequency or wavelength and shows a different color. And there are conditions for the electronic transition. There should not be change in the spin of the electron during the electronic transition. So for example, before transition to occur, the spin of this electron is off. Even after electronic transition, the spin is maintained off. Then there is no change in the spin of the electron. So plus of, minus, plus of, so 0. Delta S should be 0. Or the spin multiplicity should be plus or minus 1. So this is the allowed transition for any electronic transition to happen. If there is a change in the spin, for example, so before electronic transition, the spin is plus of 1. After electronic transition, the spin is 0. So then the change in spin is plus 1. This is forbidden transition. Or in this case, before electronic transition, spin is off, plus spin, and after electronic transition, spin is minus spin, negative. So then the change in spin of the electron is 1, which is unfair. I mean, not allowed transition. Okay, so you may not understand this, so no need to. So just to have it, there is some selection rule for the electronic transition to occur. So there should not be change in the spin of the electron during electronic transition. The point is that in an allowed electronic transition, you will get enormous intensity of the emitted radiations. That's the point. If it is forbidden transition, intensity you are going to get very less. I think I'm mostly done. So in the case of butterfly wings, fascinating colors that we see, range of butterflies, we have hundreds of types of butterfly wings. Butterflies we have red, blue, different red, different green. Is because there is a nano patterning associated with that. The color, the color that we see on the butterfly wing is because of the interference. So when I say interference, there can be a constructive interference or destructive interference. Based on the constructive or destructive interference, the intensity of the light that you are going to see or the color you are going to see. And artificially, we mimic these butterfly wings to create photonic crystals. And in the case of milk, so the whitening happens because of the multiple scattering. And in the nanomaterials, of course, milk is also an example for a nanomaterial. And in the case of metal colloids, the color that we see is due to surface plasma. You please separate video is there. You please look up. I'm not going to repeat it. Separate video is there. Please have a look. And in the case of semiconductor, that's what we have seen. It is due to absorption emission of electron. We call this as a quantum fluorescence. Quantum fluorescence. You get a very enormous intensity. So you engineer the band gap or you engineer the grain size. You manipulate the grain. If you manipulate the grain size, you are manipulating the band gap. As the band gap increases, the energy required to excite the electron from ground state to excited also increases, the wavelength decreases. The absorption energy will be different, automatically the emission energy or the wavelength also will be different, and you will see different optical properties. As the delta E increases, band gap increases, so the material will absorb at a shorter wavelength. We call this as a blue shifted. Okay, blue shifted, WIBGYOR, lower wavelength, shorter wavelength. Okay, so for example, someone has prepared gadolinium telluride quantum dots, and as the reaction progressed, he has monitored or he or she has monitored, so both the absorption profile and emission profile. So as the time progresses, there will be increase in the particle size, or if you come reverse, so lesser time, smaller particle, larger band gap. Longer time you wait, larger particle, lesser band gap. Automatically the absorption energy and the emission energy will be different, and this is the absorption profile, emission profile. You get very high emission and the absorption frequency is different, and it looks appearance very different. This is the problem we have worked out recently, few minutes back. So this is somebody else has prepared gadolinium selenide nanoparticles, nanocrystallites, okay, having the diameter 1.2 nanometer. And you see here, almost WIBGYOR of the color can be generated using a single material. This is the greatness of this nanotechnology and nanomaterials. Using same material, you can generate WIBGYOR of the material. And it can serve several purposes: optoelectronics, nanoelectronics, dye sensor solar cells, Gratzel cell, etc. You can engineer the band gap. You're engineering the grain size. Grain size decreases, band gap increases. I have one numerical problem on maybe next slide. This is another one, core shell. Gadolinium selenide, gadolinium sulfide core shell. Two semiconductors, if you integrate, and you see very fascinating color. Large grain size, lesser band gap. Grain size decreases, band gap increases. Very less grain size, increased band gap. Automatically, absorption wavelength, emission wavelength will be different, and the appearance of the material will be different. Same material, if you just engineer the band gap, just if you decrease the band gap, engineer the grain size, you will be tuning the optical property. You will be tuning the optical properties. I think with this we will close this remedy class. So here you have been given profiles, absorption profiles of some material, some colloids. Okay, so you believe me, these are our absorption profiles. You pick up any two profile and try to estimate the band gap. I told you that a few minutes back, it is also possible to estimate the band gap practically. Theoretically, you have worked out, okay, using Wannier approximation method, but practically also it is possible to estimate using this absorption profile. So what do we see here? Intensity versus the wavelength. So for example, you take this profile, there is a maximum wavelength observed by the material corresponding to what would be the wavelength here? What would be the wavelength here?
1000 nanometer.
This is 800. This is 1000. Little less than the 1000. Maybe let's assume 795. Sorry, 975. Okay, not exactly 1000. Less than 1000. Or assume 1000. Doesn't matter for me. Yes. So then this profile, what is the maximum wavelength it is observing? This is 800. This is 600. This is 700, 720 or 750. Lambda has been given. You are asked to estimate, calculate band gap. How will you do that? Lambda absorption has been given. Wavelength is given. Estimate the band gap of any material, semiconductor or insulator. Is there any equation connecting wavelength and band gap? Yes, right? Yes? Yes? Is there any equation connecting band gap and wavelength or energy and wavelength? You know, simple equation, Planck's equation, E equal to h nu or E equal to hc by lambda. H is Planck's constant, C is velocity of light, lambda is the wavelength. Wavelength is given 1000 nanometer. Another one is 750 nanometer. You know H, you know C. Use proper units and it is possible to estimate E. That E is nothing but band gap. Very simple. There is a simple way of doing this also. Or you can remember this. And it is one of the competitive exam question. You will be given a range of wavelength and you are asked to predict the band gap. Without doing any calculation, you can do that. There is a mnemonics competitive exam question, maybe IIT JEE or JAM. So H is having a unit joule second, C is meter per second, and lambda is meter. So if you take proper unit, it will come in joule, not joule, excuse me, joule. The joule should be converted into electron volt by multiplying 6.24 into 10 power 18 electron volt. So then energy will automatically become electron volt. So the equation is E is equal to 1240 divided by lambda electron volt. If you simplify HC lambda in proper units, it will become E band gap or energy is equal 1240 divided by lambda electron volt. If lambda is absorption maximum, if it is 1000, how much is the band gap? Such a tough question I have asked. Is it? E is equal to 1240 divided by lambda electron volts. If the lambda is 1000, what would be the value of E? 1.24 electron volt. That is why you don't need to calculate if you know these mnemonics. You please work out how this 1240 you are arriving. If you simplify HC by lambda in proper unit, it is possible to get. So if the lambda is 750, how much it will be? Band gap. We should have had a physical classes.
1.65.
Yes, half of that. So it is possible to estimate band gap of nanostructured materials theoretically as well as practically. And the take home point is band gap increases. There is maybe a development of Kubo gap. Material will show different optical properties and it can be ripped. Optical property can be ripped. We can develop range of the material for solar cell applications or bioimaging applications, sensing applications, catalysis application, or any other application for that. And metals, please look up the video available. I have already explained in the previous classes. Other batches. I'm not going to repeat it as I promised. So all my remedy classes I have completed. I hope you enjoy. You please revisit the videos and come back to me if you have any troubles or if you want any repetition. I'll be happy to do that. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.